What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update, and with the excitement of Spurs announcing their first signing of the January transfer window on the 25th of January, we could be seeing more new faces through the door. And let's start off with our daily Porro, and it could be one of the last ones, as he is edging closer to the door at Hotspur Way. And we've got updates from various different sources, starting with Fabrizio Romano, and he says there is growing optimism on Pedro Porro deal. Tottenham hope to get it done, as Sporting are already exploring the market for replacements. Final details being discussed, but all parties feel it could be done after today's meeting. Paul O'Keefe says a deal for Pedro Porro is now very close to being finalised. After Danjuma and Porro, Tottenham will explore a third signing if the right opportunity presents itself, either a centre-back or a midfielder. David Heitner says that Tottenham are closing in on their top January target, Pedro Porro. Tottenham have had a bid for Porro rejected this morning, but further talks are scheduled for later today amid growing optimism that a deal can be finalised. Sky Sports say that Sporting Lisbon are now anticipating for Porro's exit. George Bannister says that Tottenham and Sporting have agreed a fee for Pedro Porro. The structure of the deal is also close to being solved. And then Rudy Galletti says that Pedro Porro to Tottenham from Sporting is at the final stage. Everything confirmed. Club open to evaluate offers slightly below the amount of the release clause set at 45 million euros. No issue with the player. Agreement was reached more than 10 days ago, as told. So it looks as though Pedro Porro could finally be coming through the doors at Tottenham. Look, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not going to... Look, as you could see on my face, I am very excited, but I'm not going to let it completely overtake me until I see him in that Spurs shirt, because I know, as we saw with Arnaut Danjuma, things can turn at the last seconds, at the last stages, and Chelsea have been sniffing around. So let's not too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, but surely we are coming to the final stages of our daily Porro. What are we going to talk about? If Porro ever signs, that'll be it forever. We won't have anything to talk about. We've spoken about Pedro Porro so often. I honestly didn't think this day would ever come, that we'll actually get to the final stages. Seems as though tonight there is going to be another meeting, and we'll see if there the talks can finally be put to bed ahead of this meeting. We know Daniel Levy. There'll probably be another couple meetings over the next couple days, knowing him. But I think it is time to pretend, look, and maybe not get overexcited, but look, if he's going to be a very good signing for Tottenham, I believe he solves a really big issue at right wing back. I've been wanting him for a long time, and it looks like Tottenham are finally looking like they're going to get it done. You can never be too confident when it's Spurs, because you never know. We've been hijacked before. We just did a hijack of when it couldn't have got any closer than Danjuma to Everton, and we somehow stole in. He'd done a medical, he'd done media duties, so it hasn't gone that far yet. But it looks like Pedro Porro could be getting our man, and that is exciting news, because it seemed for all the world that we weren't going to pay what they wanted, but maybe they have softened that stance.
You know what the greatest thing about this news is? If it does get over the line, this guy was our number one target coming into this window. And how often do you see Spurs actually getting their number one target in a window? It's very rare. Very rare. So if we do get him through the door, do you think that goes some way to maybe convincing Conte to stay here?
Yeah, I hope so. I think from a player's point of view, I think all of a sudden you're starting to see his team. Those two wing backs now on either side are going to be a threat going forward when it comes to crossing and technical ability and taking on their man. We need some more centre backs, but there definitely is the basis of a very solid team, and hopefully that could be enough to convince him this team can push on. But we need to prove it as well on the pitch. Porro needs to settle. He needs to show what he can do, show Conte what we can do on the right hand side. And then there's obviously other external factors for Conte which Spurs can't control, like his family and whether he just wants to move back to Italy or not. That's going to be settled maybe later. But hopefully this is an indication that we do want to move forward with a back three and how Conte wants to play, and we believe in him. I'm hoping so anyway, but not to say that we're still 100%.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, after the first signing coming in today confirmed Arnaut Danjuma on loan with an option to buy, Pedro Porro Porro could be the second name coming through the door at Hotspur Way. And, you know, me and you spoke throughout this January saying this guy should be our number one right wing-back priority, and it looks as though he is coming through the door. So we will keep you up to date every step along the way. But at the moment, it looks as though we're just before those here we go stages. So happy days. And what else has convinced me that this could possibly come through is the next news we're going to talk about, and that is Jed Spence. Ali Gold says that Spurs have now given the green light for Jed Spence to head out on loan for the remainder of the season. Leicester, Brentford, Southampton, Palace and Bayer Leverkusen all keen on a deal for Jed Spence. Spurs are currently rejecting any permanent bids or options to buy for Jed Spence, which is a good move in my opinion. We all know the quality that he can have and the future he can provide, but we heard that we're not going to be bringing in a right wing back unless one leaves the club. So this all makes sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think Spurs, especially if Conte does leave, you don't want to be cutting your losses on Spence after 6 months, especially if Conte was to leave at the end of the season. Then all of a sudden you're thinking, and then he goes on to do well, you're thinking, why did we let him go after 6 months? So I think it's right that we're not having any options to buy or permanent transfers for Jed Spence. But a loan deal in the Premier League definitely suits everyone, and hopefully he can get the experience he needs to come back to Tottenham a better player. And maybe even if Conte does stay and he has a bit of Premier League experience, he can convince Conte that he is ready for that step up. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes and how well he does. Obviously, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. And if he does do well, then that could give a good platform for next season to really break into the team. But it'd be interesting to see what kind of level he's at, because Conte's reluctance to use him for the first half of the season. Some saying it's political, some saying he's sending a message to Levy for doing it. I think for me, if he was good enough, he would have played him, and there's a reason surely that he's not been in the team. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of level he's at if he does get a Premier League move for the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So the news at the moment, Pedro Porro nearly at the here we go stages. Jed Spence has been given the green light for a Spurs exit. Let's talk about Bryan Hill now, because tier one sources in Holland say that PSV are following the Bryan Hill situation. And seeing as Arnaut Danjuma has come into the club, does that leave the option for Bryan Hill to go out the door? Because in my opinion, even with Danjuma coming in, we should be keeping hold of Hill. It should be Danjuma coming in to take Lucas Moura's space, not Bryan Hill's space, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Bryan Hill could have left anyway, because as much as I like him, I think we were probably looking at a loan deal. I think when it comes to Lucas, we'd given up on him this season. I think we weren't even thinking about him as part of the squad anymore with his injuries and lack of quality. And as much as Conte was saying at the beginning of the season, we were relying on him, and we probably were as one of our 5 strikers. He's pretty much not played all season, so you can't even be considered it. When it comes to Hill, I wouldn't be against a loan deal, get him some more game time, get him playing on a consistent basis. I think that could do him the world of good, even if it is at PSV in the Dutch league. I think it would help his development, and maybe it would help build up his price tag as well if we do want to sell him. But also, I would also be happy with him to stay in the squad, because I think he is a decent backup to Kulusevski on the right hand side. He's the only one really in the squad who can play on the right as well as the left hand side. We don't really have like Danjuma, Richarlison, Son have all done stints on that side, but I'm not convinced that they're natural there. Whereas Gil cutting in on his left foot definitely seems to be more natural. So either way, I'm pretty content. But I think it would do his development good if he does go out on loan.
Yeah, me personally, I'd like to see him stay, because I think him leaving, Lucas Moura nowhere to be seen, it just leaves us one player short, in my opinion. I'd like to have us with a replacement in each of those 3 positions, one for Kulusevski, one for Kane, and one for Sonny as well. So if Hill stays, that gives us 6 attacking options, and I think it will leave us in good stead going into the second half of the season. In terms of PSV loan, I don't really want to see him go to PSV, to be honest. I'd like to see him go to a more physical league where he can maybe build himself up and get used to maybe the rigours of Premier League football football, even Championship football. But look, we'll have to see how this one plays out as well. And the last story we've got for you is a player called Alex Meret, who plays in goal for Napoli at the moment, their #1 goalkeeper. La Repubblica are saying that Tottenham have identified Alex Meret as a possible replacement for Hugo Lloris. The agent representing him has confirmed that Napoli goalkeeper has received interest from the Premier League. Obviously, Napoli top of the league, flying high by some points as well. And I think Alex Meret has been a standout performer as well there.
Yeah, I think he's got a couple of caps for Italy, if I'm not wrong, as well. So seems to be having a very, very good season. I haven't seen too much of him personally. I don't know his quality, but I've looked him up, and he seems to be having a fantastic time at the moment. I think he's about 25 years of age.
Yeah.
And very tall goalkeeper. I'm not sure how good he is, like playing from the back and all that kind of stuff, but he seems to be playing very, very well for Napoli. So it could be one that to keep your eye on for sure.
Well, they just signed Galini, so maybe there's an option there.
Maybe I'll probably as a sub. I'd assume, but
I would assume that as
you
well.
never know. You never know. Maybe Spurs are cooking up something.
Maybe.
Paratici's last goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. His
final
like last Hail Mary.
Exactly.
He's going to get us all these players.
Exactly.
But look, that is your Tottenham update for today. The most notable one, obviously, is Pedro Porro could be through the door at Tottenham Hotspur very soon, which could pave the way for Jed Spence to leave on loan. Let me know your thoughts on all of those topics in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.